Shri Subhash Chandra Bose ji. So what is the truth here?
Unfortunately, because of the greed, because of the political ambition, greed for power, so-called British stooges that we had, Gandhi and Nehru's, they failed him very badly. Bose died during a plane crash in Taihoku, in Taiwan. There was nothing on the record in Taihoku, in Taiwan, about any plane crash during a couple of months before August and after August.
Speaking about plane crashes, it reminds me of another very prominent personality in history of India in science, Dr. Homi Bhabha. He was in a plane and that plane just crashed or something like that, and then it was made to look like an accident.
He was the father of India's nuclear program.
The proposal to make India's first atom bomb.
He was a true nationalist. He had just declared, about his nuclear program just a couple of months before this, he died. CIA had been closely monitoring his movements and his future plans. There was no problem with the plane. It was flying perfectly. They had reported everything is fine. The weather was good. And suddenly, boom.
As you know, our history is so distorted. This is hardly taught.
तो इतिहास बोध हमको है ही नहीं, दिया ही नहीं गया शुरू से. हमारे पूरे गौरवपूर्ण इतिहास को ही मिटा दिया गया.
2nd October is not just Gandhi Jayanti, it's also Lal Bahadur Shastri Jayanti, but most of us don't know it. And also, it is not celebrated at all.
They never celebrated Sardar Patel. They never celebrated Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Veer Savarkar.
In India, the narrative was set, that Modi is a dictator. Modi is going to change the constitution. He will not hold elections in the future. People of that country are fed with this narrative where all of them are, all these big techs, they're hand in gloves,
Namaste and welcome to this episode of the Oddcast show. Today's episode is very, very odd indeed because we're talking about assassinations of famous Indians, geniuses, scientists, as well as politicians. We're joined today once again by the esteemed Sriman Praveen Chaturvedi ji, who has an OTT, the world's first Hindu OTT called Pracham. If you haven't watched Pracham yet, please check it out, subscribe to them because they are putting some mind-blowing content out there. That's very, very essential from our civilizational perspective. So, namaste, Praveen ji, welcome to the show.
Namaste. Thank you.
How are you?
Very good. Great.
Great. I hope you're happy to be here again.
Yes.
Great. So, sir, my question, like I mentioned that, we're talking about assassinations of famous Indians, geniuses, etc. The first one that really, really intrigues me, and this has been a conspiracy for decades, is about Shri Subhash Chandra Bose ji. So what is the truth here? What happened?
Netaji, was a true nationalist, true patriot and a great freedom fighter and absolutely fearless. आप ये सोचिए कि who could think of at that time to go and meet Hitler and to seek his help and to ask him, from him the Indian prisoners of wars, and to, take them under his own ambit and use them for the freedom fight against the British. I mean, see what a great visionary he was, Who could think of, going and meeting President Tojo, seeking his help, asking him, all the cooperation to raise up the army, Indian National Army, and to launch the attack, from the eastern side, Remember the famous Battle of Kohima?
Right.
So, आप ये देखिए कि what a fearless warrior, what a great son of Bharat Mata he was, But unfortunately, because of the greed, because of the political ambition, greed for power, the so-called British stooges that we had as politicians in our country, Gandhi and Nehru's, they failed him very badly, So they were very afraid of Netaji. They were afraid of his charisma. They were afraid, of his popularity. Remember in 1939, Gandhi had a fallout, with Subhash Chandra Bose when he was contesting for the presidency of Congress. And Gandhi said, that if Bose wins, I'm going to quit. He was so jealous. But Bose always had great respect for Gandhiji. So, and Bose asked tough questions, from Gandhiji. And he said, he used to ask him, that don't do all this satyagraha and all this natak is not going to help, Only a armed rebellion can lead to the freedom of our country. He was very clear about it, Not all this natak, And he used to always say, ask them a date. Which, Gandhi had been dilly-dallying with them, Now, this is a very suspicious role of Gandhi, if you see. So, Bose was not at all happy, with this. So, he thought, that, enough. Now, I will create my own path. And he escaped, from Kolkata. And if you remember, he went, through Afghanistan and he went to Russia and then he went to Germany, where he met with, Hitler, and then he sought his help, his cooperation, and Free India movement he started from Germany. And then in a German submarine, he went to Madagascar. From Madagascar, he changed and went to Singapore, and then he took over Azad Hind Fauj, in Singapore. If you remember that he, so passionately, he raised,
Unfortunately, sir, we don't have much of knowledge about this topic because, as you know, our history is so distorted. This is hardly taught.
That is the very unfortunate part, because the true history we don't know.
Right.
We were never taught, in fact, everything was distorted, so that we don't come to know the truth of our own history. तो इतिहास बोध हमको है ही नहीं, दिया ही नहीं है शुरू से. और सिर्फ ये नहीं, रिसेंटली ये प्री इंडिपेंडेंस या पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस की बात नहीं है. हमारे पूरे गौरवपूर्ण इतिहास को ही मिटा दिया गया है. हमारा इतिहास ऐसे शुरू किया गया इन्वेडर्स से, और इन्वेडर्स को ग्लोरीफाई किया गया हमारे इतिहास में. If you see these marauders, these plunderers, these rapists, these invaders, they were glorified, have been glorified until now. They have been glorified in our history books. Now what a great history we had. If you go back, read our itihas, you see, the Ikshwaku dynasty, जिसके भगवान राम थे, और the Kuru वंश, है ना, जिसके महान योद्धा जिसमें हुए कौरव पांडव हैं, और यदुवंश, if you see, है भगवान कृष्ण. इतना महान हमारा इतिहास था, लेकिन वो सब डिस्टॉर्ट करके माइथोलॉजी बना दिया गया. In this country, we had, great empires like Vijayanagaram Empire. Does anybody talk about it? In this country, we had great warriors like Bappa Raval. Bappa Raval, was such a great warrior. When Muhammad bin Qasim, he killed and beheaded Raja Dahir. And he killed his son also, Jai Singha, and Rani Bai, his wife, she and so many women, they did this, unfortunately, the Johar. And when they, started advancing, everybody, they went to Chittor, where there's this great warrior, righteous, dharmic warrior, the mighty King Bappa Raval was there. And they asked him, that, we need your help. And Bappa Raval said, I know all about these things. I know these invaders, I know their nature. I know what they do, how they desecrate our temples and how they rape the women and how they do the looting and plundering, and I'm going to help. And he raised an army, and if you see, he's the only warrior, who not only, killed and finished off the invaders, in fact, he chased them out, till Arab.
Wow.
We don't know this history.
Yeah. But so similarly now about Bose, about Netaji, we don't know anything.
We don't know anything. So what happened, now I tell you the context of Bose. Bose, he had formed Azad Hind government, which was recognized by many, many countries, during that time. He had his own army called Azad Hind Fauj. He reclaimed back Andaman and Nicobar.
Really?
जहां पे उन्होंने अपना भारत का झंडा फहराया. Then, he fought valiantly, his army fought, with the help of Japanese, in the Battle of Kohima. And, the English, they were shaken up, Though it was unfortunate, the conditions were very, very tough, There was incessant rain, in that area. The supplies were cut off, so they had to suffer heavy losses. And then soon, the Japan, after America had nuked, Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they had to surrender. So, his main ally, his main support system, had to surrender. It was gone. So Bose was absolutely, he was brilliant. He was a great strategist, great statesman, and great visionary, and absolutely fearless, So now what is the main story which was spread around, what it says, It says that Bose died during a plane crash in Taihoku, in Taiwan, in August of 1945. Now, there were 3 commissions of inquiry. 2, commission inquiries was, constituted by the Indira Gandhi government, the Nehru and the Indira Gandhi government. And both of them, the inquiry commissions, they just wrote, the similar story as a ultimate findings that, he died, without going to Taiwan, without cross-checking, and without doing even a Shahnawaz commission, which was done. They had, written the same thing. But, there was a commission of inquiry which was constituted, by Vajpayee government. Justice Mukherjee Commission. So Justice Mukherjee said, nahi, aise nahi. I'm going to go and I'm going to check myself, what are the facts? What are the records? What are the evidences? We have to support this story, So he went to Taiwan. And I mean, it's available, I've read all those inquiry reports. And he was shocked to find that there was nothing on the record in Taihoku, in Taiwan, about any plane crash during a couple of months before August and after August. There was mention of one plane crash which was carrying, Americans, which was far off from there. That was also in September. But nothing, which could support this theory that he died and he was burnt. And, then he was brought to the hospital in Taihoku, and where he later succumbed, to the injuries. And he died, and, there was a postmortem. And the postmortem was done by Dr. Yoshini, a Japanese doctor, and where he certified, that this is Subhash Chandra Bose, and, he has died and such. So he went to Japan, Justice Mukherjee, and he met Dr. Yoshini. He was alive that time, He was in his 90s, I think, And they sat together and he asked him, tell me the truth. So first of all, obviously, he tried to, evade and tell the same story. And he said, no, I'm I've been given a task, I'm a judge, from India, and want to know the facts and figures.
I need the truth.
So he asked him that, what happened actually? He cross-examined him then and there, How did you know that did you really saw somebody burnt? How did you know that he was Subhash Chandra Bose? How did you certify that? Yoshini, after this cross-questioning, he said, he started crying, and he said that, frankly, I don't know anything. I did not know anything about it. I was told to write this and to sign this, and I did that. And I don't care now because I'm too old, they want to revoke my medical license, they can do that, So this was established, that the death certificate which was produced in support as an evidence was also fake of Subhash Chandra Bose. So Justice Mukherjee Commission, he concluded that he did not die in that plane crash because there was no plane crash. And all that story, that we hear is all cock and bull story. So what happened to him? So there, I did a lot of research in this, and what actually happened, that Bose, with his friends in Japan, he escaped, via Japan to Russia. And Russia at that time had recognized his government, and he had an embassy in Omsk. He thought, that the Germany is gone and the Japan is gone. The only hope he has, if he can convince Stalin in Russia, he can help. He can probably help, So he went, to Russia. Apparently, the Stalin had assured him of help, Now there are written evidences and people can check on the record, and even I have, Nehru came to know through a spy that, he has escaped to Russia. And Nehru called his secretary at night. And this is the test, evidence, of his secretary. He testified, that he called him, and he said, come immediately. He said, sir, let me get ready. He said, just come in whatever dress you are, just come immediately, There has to be a letter which has to be sent, And Nehru narrated a letter to be typed, which was addressed to Attlee, the then Prime Minister, where he had said, that your war criminal, Subhash Chandra Bose, has been seen entering Russia.
What?
Yeah. And apparently, Attlee, and at that time, if you remember the dynamics, of those times, it was strange. The Axis forces had fallen, and they were allied, who were not, in harmony with each other, but the circumstances has had,
They were
brought them
circumstantial
together,
allies. Yeah.
like America and Russia, they had become allies. British and Russia, they had become allies.
They are forced into
They
it.
are forced into it. So apparently, Attlee, the Prime Minister, he either requested or whatever this thing, because he was wanted by the Britishers, as for waging war against the empire, which was the greatest crime during those times. So he I think requested him or whatever, asked him to do a favor or whatever, that he should do something about Bose. And after that, Bose was sent to the Siberian gulags,
Oh,
to the
God.
Siberian labor camps. Now there are two witnesses and there are supporting evidences of two people who had seen Bose in Russia. One was Nehru's sister Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, and one was Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. And so he had requested Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan that time to tell Gandhiji to bail him out, to help him. But nothing happened, So unfortunately, in those, labor camps, finally he was killed.
He was killed.
He was killed. He was murdered, I was once, with Subramaniam Swami on a dinner meet, and we were talking about, Bose. And now Swami was the law minister in this country, so he had accessed certain files. This is what he told me, those, top secret
Confidential.
files, which are not there in the public domain. So he had accessed those, when he was as a law minister. So when I shared, that, this is what, so I really wanted to make a film, which I will make maybe someday, about what happened to Bose. Not all these conspiracy theories, based on the truth, the facts, the evidences, The declassified documents from the British archives, from the Russian archives, from the CIA archives, on those facts, not based on some hearsay, and maybe, believing in what others have spread around. No, not that, So I actually went through the archives, whatever were declassified, Indian government has unfortunately not declassified many of it. Some of it they have done, So I asked him, I shared, that I said, what is your take on this? And he said, you're absolutely right, And I remember Swami ji told me that he was murdered, and he even told me that by putting, a polythene, plastic around him, and strangled him.
Oh God.
That's what Swami told me, So obviously, I mean, he will not make a false claim about it, I shared, with where my research was leading me, and now he had access to those classified documents and whatever he had seen, and he corroborated, that with whatever he had read. So I have reasons to believe that he was killed, or he was asked to be killed, by people who were afraid of him, afraid of his charisma, afraid of him, showing up back in India, and probably becoming a threat because he was extremely popular.
Absolutely.
Extremely popular with the masses. And if you see, Clement Attlee had admitted this, that laughingly he had said, one of the judges in Kolkata, when he had come post-independence, when he was asked, the judge asked him, the Bengali gentleman in Calcutta, what do you think is the real reason of Britishers giving independence to Bharat? Do you think it was Gandhiji? And Nehruji, he laughed and he said, oh, do you think we were, bothered about Gandhi? He said, no, not at all. The actual reason is when inspired by Subhash Chandra Bose's Netaji's words, and with his speech, when the Indian armed forces, they started a mutiny. The rebellion of the Navy.
The naval mutiny.
Naval mutiny, and then subsequently, the other major, rebellion which started in the armed forces. That time, the British knew that it is time that they have to leave. Otherwise, they will be not spared, in this country.
So there's also something, the narrative that goes around, Doctor, about Netaji is, that he turned into a Gumnami Baba and all that. What is that propaganda then?
Now, there are actually many conspiracy theories, which out of which, this became extremely popular. But there were many Babas, there was Bhagwan Ji, in the northern West Bengal, and there were some other, there were many floated around that time, out of which somehow, of late, this Gumnami Baba theory has found, I don't know why, for what reason, this was, a lot of people tried to, establish Gumnami Baba as Subhash Chandra Bose, living as a recluse and all that, Now, I don't actually, first of all, there is no conclusive evidence about it, Otherwise, Justice Mukherjee would have written in his Commission of Inquiry report that it was Gumnami Baba. He had evaluated all this stuff and all, And there were other things, and I tell you very frankly, Netaji, he married, a German lady called Emily Schenkel. When he went to Austria, and when he was there for some time, he was not well. And that's how, he met Emily Schenkel, and, they fell in love and they married, It's okay. It's fine, In India, we somehow, when it comes to our heroes, we shy away, from accepting, the personal aspects of their lives, They can also have marriages, they can also have children, And Netaji had a daughter who is still alive, Anita Bose. Who was a professor in University of Augsburg, in Germany. And, now having, done a love marriage with a wonderful lady, and there are some beautiful letters also, letters to Emily Schenkel is a book, collection of letters, how much deeply he loved, his wife and his daughter. Do you think that he will come and live as a recluse and not even try to contact his own wife and daughter?
Doesn't make logical sense.
First of all, it doesn't make sense, So I'm telling you why I don't believe in this. Why don't I buy the story, Now, the second thing is, having read about Netaji, his charisma, his character, his nature, his inclinations, his valor, his fearlessness, his patriotism, his courage. I mean, somebody who went and met Hitler and Tojo and, convinced them to help him out, would he, live a life of, a recluse somewhere, like a fugitive living under the garb of some sadhu? And, why would he do that? It doesn't match his character. It doesn't match his nature, his whatever he has done all his life. He was a warrior. He would not. Why would he do that?
It doesn't make sense.
All he had to do was just come back and say, "Here I am back in my beloved country, Bharat." And I'm telling you, people would have,
They would have rallied behind him.
Yeah, rallied behind him. They would have, given him a great hero's welcome, and they would have worshipped him. Why? He was not a criminal that he had to live like a refugee or a fugitive. Why would he do that? So I frankly, I don't buy this that he. Although there are a lot of people, who say, he became a Gumnami Baba. I don't believe in that. I think, for political vested interest, the political stalwarts here got him eliminated, assassinated, because they saw his coming back as a great threat, because they were no match to his charisma. And they thought, this is how, it happens, Anybody who becomes a threat, get him eliminated,
So this was a pure assassination as per you, and I can't wait to see your movie that you're going to make one day on it, because the kind of research you do, the kind of stuff I've seen on your channel is great.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that to come out.
So, sir, you also gave us a theory within this about a plane crash. Speaking about plane crashes, it reminds me of another very prominent personality in history of India in science. His name is Dr. Homi Bhabha. I saw it on your platform and also in this series called Rocket Boys, that he was in a plane and that plane just crashed or something like that, and then it was made to look like an accident. What exactly happened to Homi Bhabha?
So Bhabha was a great scientist.
Yeah.
He was the father of India's nuclear program.
Right.
That's how they have, named Bhabha Atomic Research Center after him, VRC, because great contribution. He was a great scientist. He was a very visionary person. He was a true nationalist. He was devoted to Bharat Mata. And he had just declared, about his nuclear program just a couple of months before this, he died, And I think that rattled, the superpowers around the world,
Yes.
And he had all the support of even Shastri ji. He said, go ahead and we'll help you in whatever way, And I think CIA had been closely monitoring his movements and his future plans. And they thought, that his nuclear programs for Bharat are going to be
a threat,
for them, because Bharat is going to be a nuclear empowered country then, very powerful. And, it is their dadagiri over the world, they don't want any other country to come up like this, especially Bharat.
Right.
How could they? So it is there on record. Is there on in a book where Trumbull, has, recorded that he had interviewed the then director of the CIA, who had admitted on record that, CIA had conspired to kill Homi Bhabha. And this is what I've shown in our film, on Pracham OTT, it was there. And he said, that please disclose these facts after my death. And that's how after this death, that book was published. And we have taken from that book. And it says that, he flew from here and, there was no, there was no problem with the plane. It was flying perfectly. They had reported everything is fine. The weather was good. And suddenly, boom, it exploded, and its debris was spread all over the mountain.
And they also killed many other people.
They killed so many other people.
So many other innocent people.
Innocent people, That is how ruthless the world can be to you, That is why, we have to be very, very careful. And not only Homi Bhabha, many nuclear scientists have been killed, in this country under very suspicious circumstances.
So these are also all pure assassinations.
Pure assassinations. Under mysterious circumstances.
This is so sad.
So you see how far and how deep is the infiltration of deep state in our country as well, where, nobody is safe.
So for the benefit of our audience, if you could just explain what is deep state exactly, like what is a deep state?
So on the face of it, the way we see the world, we can't accept it on the face value. We see Biden, out of the blue, he becomes the president of the United States. Now, he's not in his senses also, The way he has been conducting himself,
absolutely,
itself shows, that he's just a puppet, in the hands of bigger powers and bigger lobbies, which are behind the scene. Now, the bigger powers and the bigger lobbies, the power lobbies and the money lobbies, who control the things, the political leadership and, the destinies of the country, they are behind the scenes just controlling the strings, How do they control the strings? They control the strings, through this thing which is called deep state, which is, a group of people who are experts in various fields who actually infiltrate in any system and they subvert it, and they
and then run the system.
Yeah. And like, for example, very recently you saw Bangladesh. Now you see how ideological subversion is done by the deep state. Now they have the media under their ambit. They have, the social media. They have the films. They have the news. They have all, infiltration in all these powerful mediums through which you can impress upon the masses.
And they can set a narrative.
And they can set any narrative they want. In India, the narrative was set, that Modi is a dictator. Modi is going to change the constitution. The party which changed the constitution itself 70 times, is accusing of the other leader who came, democratically as a prime minister of this country. They were accusing him that he will change the constitution, where in fact he'd never changed the constitution in 10 years. And the people, they believe in these narratives. That he will not hold elections in the future.
That he'll turn India into a true dictatorship.
True dictatorship, that he will abolish, the reservations.
And oppress the minorities.
And oppress the minorities. So, oppression of minorities तो है ही. वो तो पहले से उसको लगाया मौत का सौदागर और ये वो सब पहले से टैग लगा हुआ था उसको. This is how, now if you see, this is how vicious they are. This is how they, set the narratives. And they plant it in your subconscious mind. And the youth, which is seeing everywhere. You open any social media and you see somewhere in between all those posts, a narrative which is planted, it comes. You go to, Facebook, you go to Instagram, you go to YouTube,
Twitter,
you go
anywhere.
to Twitter, you go to anywhere, the people of that country are fed with this narrative where all of them are, all these big techs, they're hand in gloves,
Very
They're part
interesting
of this
explanation.
ecosystem, which is called deep state,
Hmm.
where they play with the countries, with the destinies, of the people of that country. And it is them who want to decide that which country will go to war, who is going to be the leader of that country, which country has to be sabotaged, which country, they can put their own proxy government, how they can, extract all the resources. Now, I went to Iraq, during the war, and I've been to Iraq before that. Iraq was such a beautiful place. It was a prosperous country, What the hell, America has to do with who is, leading the Iraq in Middle East? What Saddam had to do, with the 9/11 attacks.
That's another assassination of him by deep state.
Assassination, 9/11 happened. The perpetrators of the 9/11 were sitting somewhere else, and they had openly declared on video that, okay, we have done, Osama bin Laden had said, that I did that, But no, they don't want to hunt him down first. They find an excuse with weapons of mass destruction.
To go into Iraq.
And they go into Iraq, and they absolutely
finish that country.
Destroy that country. And then these vultures, they come, and they say, now we are going to, redevelop your country.
Hmm.
We are going to build it up again. First, you destroy it. And then you said, okay, my companies are here and we're going to build it up. And I saw, that all the oil in this process were all sucked out, of Iraq. What was wrong with Libya? What was your problem,
So what was wrong with the Native Americans, the Red Indians? They just wiped them out.
They wiped them out,
and put them in reservations.
Not only that, Incans, Mayans, Aztecs, they were all wiped out,
Absolutely. The whole civilization.
What happened, with Bangladesh? The same script. Hasina, Sheikh Hasina, the dictator. The same script if you see, undemocratically she has, come to power. And they instigated, the opposition. And then they, burned the country. And then she had to flee. Very recently, you have seen that.
Yes, absolutely.
India, we went through the same thing. Same script. Modi is a dictator. He will finish the reservation. He will oppress the minorities. He will never allow the elections to happen. And, all that, Same thing happened, Here they were not successful. Thankfully, to the wisdom of the Indians, the true Bhartiyas, who at least got him, 240 seats. Otherwise, if Modi would have come in a slight majority also, they would have burned this country, Same thing happened there.
But it's very interesting.
Now, same thing is happening in US. The same script with the Pappu was parroting here is being done by the Harris there now. That, Trump is a dictator. He will change the constitution.
Yeah.
He will never allow the elections. All that, thing, is the same thing is being.
But I think it's a very interesting definition you've given of deep state, and it's a very clear understanding of, what it is. But, and as you made it very clear that, Dr. Homi Bhabha ji was an assassination by deep state. And during that conversation, you also mentioned Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. And his assassination also happened around if I may call it an assassination, it happened around the same time frame as Dr. Homi Bhabha. And you also mentioned that Shastri ji was helping Dr. Homi Bhabha with open hands. So was he also assassinated, or is that just a conspiracy theory?
You see, no, he was assassinated, Let us be clear about it, we have to call out truth.
You're not scared of calling a spade a spade.
No, you should not be. Enough, we have done, over this decades, we have been doing that.
Right.
See, any leader, who is a nationalist, is a great threat, to the deep state. Because then they can't do what they want to do, in that country. They can't have their pawns, they can't have, their resources, their presence, which can really suck out, the money and, all the natural resources and everything, from the country, They don't want any nationalist to be. Like the biggest eyesore for the deep state is Putin. But Putin cares a hoot about them, he defines, he has got his own definition. He lives by his own terms. He never allows, even these people to come in his country. He doesn't care. They can't do anything. Although they've been trying to do this war, helping the Ukraine and funding them and the puppet NATO, all that they are doing, but they could not do much, with Putin. Modi is another nationalist, Likewise, Shastri was a great nationalist. Nehru was a stooge, obviously, everybody knows. The power they thought, would come to Indira Gandhi, but she was not ready. In an interim, way, Shastri was made, but he was a nationalist. Now they get very unnerved, by people who are nationalist, who are working for the cause of the country, for the motherland, for the good of the people. So obviously, he was an eyesore and he had to be removed. So they got him assassinated, they got him poisoned and he was killed. And also they could make way, for someone whom they had grooming. And that was Indira. And she was made the prime minister then.
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. And then what happened, if you see, isn't through Indira Gandhi that, they infiltrated the entire system? They controlled everything in this country for a very long time. The communist propaganda, the communist agenda, the ideological subversion was done maximum during the Indira tenure. Is this not fact? Is this not fact, that if you see the damage that Nurul Hasan did, the card-holding communist, he founded, the JNU, the hub, of all the communists. The damage that was done, from that time onwards, the emergency which was imposed, people who are saying that Modi is going to change the constitution, they murdered constitution, and they imposed emergency.
So, what is more sad is that after Shastriji's assassination, as you say, the subversion of history has gone to such a level that 2nd October is not just Gandhi Jayanti, it's also Lal Bahadur Shastri Jayanti, but most of us don't know it. And also, it is not celebrated at all. That is what is very, very sad, is what I feel.
They will never celebrate,
Yeah.
They never celebrated Sardar Patel.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go.
They never celebrated Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Veer Savarkar ji.
Veer Savarkar. Anybody knows about, what happened to, everybody knows what happened to Rajiv Gandhi's widow. And they cry that, she's become a widow. And anybody knows about Lal Bahadur Shastri's widow? What a great woman she was.
None of us know.
None of us know. If you have to take the tale of two widows, everybody knows about this widow. Does anybody know about her, Shastri's wife? They don't tell. They don't celebrate, these great people in our country, like Savarkar, as you said, Gross injustice to Savarkar and his contribution in the freedom struggle. I mean, unimaginable.
Absolutely.
That great man, sitting in London, he inspired, the lives of Madan Lal Dhingra, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad. If you see what a genius he was. People, the Britishers were not afraid of anything else. They were afraid of his genius.
So, sir, another assassination I can think of is Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji. But before you tell us whether it was an assassination or not, I would love for you to give us some context as to who he really was, because I've never even seen his name or heard his name anywhere in our history classes in school. So please tell us about him.
Another great nationalist, a very proud Hindu, a great son of Bharat Mata. He was a very, dedicated person all his life. He was a great leader, a great visionary. He was the president of Jansangh when he died. He came up with this concept of Antyodaya.
Okay.
Antyodaya is, the last person in the line. We have to think about him also. We have to think about his prosperity.
Survivors.
His, coming up in life. Even he deserves that. The concept of Antyodaya was given by Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji. A great nationalist. Again, anybody, as I said, the general rule is in this country or anywhere, if you're a nationalist, then you're a threat to them. Then, they will try or all their means, to harm you or eliminate you. So, Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji also same thing. He was extremely popular and he had a huge mass following. Now, they're afraid, that, these mass leaders, they can become threat, to their power and to the position and to their, this
Grand plans.
And on the throne on which they think they are entitled to sit. So this is what happened with him also. Now, he was traveling in a train, and the train was just about to arrive at Mughal Sarai station, which is now named Deen Dayal Upadhyay station.
Wow.
Near Varanasi. And people were waiting at the platform to receive him, to welcome him. And when the train came, he was not there on the particular berth on which, he was reserved. Only some of his belongings were there. The belongings were there, but he was not there. Then there was a immediate, panic amongst the people.
That
Alarm
where is
was
he?
raised, where did he go? And then there was a CBI investigation of what happened to him, Then anyway, so what happened? Short of the station, his body was found by the side of the railway track. He had died by the time. Anyway, a big human cry in the country. And then an investigation was done. And, all these investigations are all botched up, ultimately. Now they say that, some thieves, they wanted to steal something and he was going to the bathroom and they wanted to snatch something and they pushed him. And he, his head hit the pole.
To make it look like an accident.
And then they ran away. Those thieves were never caught. And, they said, that they escaped, and it was, the ball botched up into this theory that some thieves, to loot his belongings, they pushed him from the train and he died.
Like an accident, yes.
But actually not, because his belongings were there. And he was assassinated, Now, by whom? This is a big question. You all can find out, to whom he was a threat that time. His popularity was becoming a threat to whom? Why? Who would have thought of eliminating? So this is how, so the percolation of deep state is there in every country, And they percolate, the ministries, the various departments.
The media, the judiciary.
And they live in the shadows, Like, it's not that, an American has to come or a Britisher has to come as a deep state agent, No. Suppose you are, positioned in a prominent, as a prominent authority somewhere, I just, take you in my favor, by money or by
The brown sepoys still exist.
Yeah. And then what you do is, you start working,
Right.
as an agent to that big, the shadow organization or setup or whatever you might call it as deep state, That's how they work, That's how they change the narratives. They misguide, the people. They also disorient, the prominent people. If suddenly a leader starts behaving in a very different way, you should know that these are the signs that even his ministry or his office has been infiltrated, by the deep state, who are subconsciously misguiding him. They will place their own people around him. That is how they work, and this is how many people, many great leaders, they have been eliminated,
Right.
Great personalities,
There's two other prominent personalities that I can think of. One is Vikram Sarabhai, and second one is Srinivasa Ramanujan. Both geniuses of India, and their deaths are probably nobody's aware of, but nobody even talks about it. Nor have I seen it anywhere.
So again, these things, they are always left inconclusive,
Yeah.
Like the then government, when they saw the findings, of Homi Bhabha's plane crash, as written by the other country, they just accepted it, they never questioned it. Nobody questioned, that time, if you see, because the media was also under the control,
Correct.
about Shastri's death, nobody questioned it. Similarly, Sarabhai was absolutely healthy. How did he die in a mysterious circumstances,
Right.
Again, these are assassinations. Some of them, we come to know, and many of them are under the shadows. We don't even come to know. As I said, more than 100 great scientists in this country have been eliminated, assassinated by, these foreign powers, by the deep state. But unfortunately, we don't know even the names. If not eliminated, then what they did, to the ISRO scientist Nambiar.
Yeah.
What they did,
Oh my God. That was really, really sad. I mean, the way they tortured that man mentally and put all sorts of accusations on him. It was just unbelievable.
This is what they do, Either they will kill you, eliminate you, if not,
or make you dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional, or they will. This is how, misinformation they will spread about you. The conspiracy against you would be such deep that you will be looked down, by your own people.
Right. Nobody knows the truth then.
Nobody knows the truth, That is the power of narratives, This is what I say, that why Pracham was started, Why we are doing this? Because there was nobody, to counter the narratives which are being floated, by people from other countries and, the people who were against our own country in our own motherland. There was nobody, countering those fake narratives. There was nobody countering those propaganda. I thought, let's do something about it, At least empower people with the true sense of history, with the
Let
true
them
knowledge.
listen to both sides of the
Yeah,
story.
let them listen to both sides. How it cannot, the narratives only cannot be one way, Similar, thing happened to Ramanujan also, if you see. A great scientist sees contributions, and we have covered him shortly, briefly, in our film, Eternal Civilization,
Is there a reason as to why?
So they want to steal their knowledge, and they don't want you, whatever is there, you steal it, and then you don't let him work, further for your country, because now he was a genius, and because he, he always attributed his whatever work to the Devi, who came to him and inspired him, with all those
Visions.
visions,
Right. I heard he created theories that baffled mathematicians for years without even any formal education.
On the newspaper, he used to write, the formulas and the theories. Another great genius, what happened to him, he was a Serbian, Tesla.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
You're studying physics, you should study about Tesla, I mean,
That's another mystery.
Another mystery, the genius. I mean, the super genius.
Right.
What happened to him, So this is what they do, Either they will kill you, or they will do a conspiracy against you, or they will discredit you, or they will never acknowledge your contributions, Like, for example, I'll tell you, the contribution of J.C. Bose. J.C. Bose was the founder. You're studying physics, you will read more about him. We should. He was the inventor, of microwave
and acoustics.
Now, on that invention, everything today, information revolution that we are seeing, communication revolution till date, is based, on that genius, his research, But what happened, Graham Bell, he said, oh wow, this is amazing when he met
ये तो
him.
मैंने invent किया.
Then he said, can you give me your research? And this great man, he said, yes. He said, in Bharat, we don't ascertain any right on Vidya. Vidya is for everybody, You want to take, you take it. Look what, Bell did, He never acknowledged J.C. Bose. And he took the sole credit of the invention. This is what they have done through the ages, Did they ever acknowledge Madhava I was talking about? Or Aryabhatta?
No.
Such great geniuses we had, They never, Unfortunately, this is what has been consistently, done with the great people, Bharat.
But so, what I'm glad about is that your channel, the OTT that you've started, Pracham, is actually talking about these odd but relevant topics. You're bringing it out to the fore. And my only wish is that my prayer to the audience is to please watch Pracham and of course our show also. But, look at these topics and try and discover the truth, because the truth is out there. And I know the way you explained to me offline, the amount of effort and research and money that you're pouring in from your own pocket to do this, because you want these civilizational stories to come out. So, on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you first for doing that. And most importantly, for taking a 2:00 morning flight and coming to Pune at that odd hour and coming on the Oddcast show. So thank you. Thank you very much. We are sincerely obliged. Thank
Not
you
at
so
all,
much.
Don't say that. As a part of our duty and obligation, the way we are doing Pracham, I feel, it is our duty and a kartavya that, whoever is calling me, with the, a lot of hope and with a lot of, love to come and share, whatever little I know, I think it is my duty to, to be there and, to help him with whatever he's doing, because we have to think as a community now. Whatever I'm doing or whatever you're doing is not for our own sake. It is for our country, for Bharat Mata. It is for our Sanatan Dharma, for Hindus. And more importantly, it is for the coming generations. The great traditions of knowledge which has been given to us from thousands of years, it is our duty to pass it over, to the next generation in the same pristine form, So it is for the coming generation. It is for the youth of this country. This is our responsibility. This is our duty, and this is what we have to do, and we all have to do collectively. And I appeal to all your audience that all of you have to come together and help, like this Oddcast that you're doing. Help them. Spread this word around. Share with your peers in your social groups. Tell them that this is something very nice. Unless we help each other, unless we what a great thought in our Ved, and I'll just end this with this, हमारे वेदों में संकल्प है बहुत ही सुंदर कि ओम सम गच्छध्वम ओम सम गच्छध्वम सम वदध्वम संभो मनांसि जानताम. Let us walk together. Let us think collectively in harmony. Let us say what we are saying, in the same words, with the same bhav, with the same thoughts, Then only we can succeed in whatever we are doing, So all of us, we have to come together for the cause of Bharat. It is not
Absolutely.
about me or about you, about anybody. We are all here for the cause of Bharat, for the cause of this great country, this great Sanskriti, this great civilization, and the great rishis. The greatest debt that we have, Rin, is the Rishi Rin. And, we have to pay it back, And this is for which we are working, and we all have to work together.
So, sir, you are in the land of Maharashtra, and I want to just say that here we celebrate Rishi Panchami also,
Very nice.
which is
I know
great,
that.
and which nobody else have seen celebrating. So, my appeal to the audience is that please, a civilizational reawakening is needed. We are all foot soldiers. We will walk with you, sir, and I request everyone to walk with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.